coming on my show, Taylor. It's been a while. Can you give a brief detail about yourself?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Hi, guys. So I'm Taylor Ross. I've been an actress professionally for almost over 10 years, which is crazy. But I've done short films, commercials, productions, ads, anything. And I am just loving life. And I just recently started a podcast called the Dating Diary series, which you and I were talking a little bit before we recorded, but it's pretty much kind of for men and women, and it's empowering other people to live their best life and be the best selves that they can possibly be.
And what made you decide to start this podcast?
My own personal life.
Hmm.
So I've always tried to separate my work life and my personal life. But I think my personal life was just becoming kind of almost matching with my work life because it was becoming stressful. Everything was stressful, and I was in bad patterns and not loving myself to the best that
Hmm.
I could be, and so I was in bad relationships with people in work, and so I think for me it was a personal thing. I didn't want to just make a podcast to make a podcast. I wanted to help other people in the situations that I was in, to kind of learn from it, move forward, and make a whole new life for them that they could have possibly imagined.
Hmm. Well, that's powerful, first of all. Um, and
Thank
that
you.
follow-up, you're welcome. The follow-up question is that also toward for mental health as well?
Yes. I think mental health has a lot to do with the people that we have in our lives.
Hmm.
So sometimes they're like, oh, like, hey, you can have a crappy boyfriend, but your friends are going to be the best. No, so if you pick one bad thing, you're most likely going to have other bad things in your life, whether that's friends or work or even picking bad restaurants. Um, but I think mental health has a lot to do with what we feel about ourselves and who
Hmm.
we allow in our lives and how we act. And I hope that I can positively affect people. And also in my work, I just recently, which you and I again we're talking a little bit about before we went on this, but it's called The Tailor. It's a short film, and it's about a young woman who had recently lost her dad, and that was very personal for me because I haven't had my dad in my life since I was 8 years old. And so to have a very powerful story like this and portray it, um, you feel a lot of things, because your mental health also plays a huge part in it. I had to, go back in time, and I mean, there's different methods for acting. I didn't really totally do method acting for this. I don't recommend that. But that for this one, you had, at least for me, I had to go back to how I felt. You feel confused. You feel, I mean, there's so much going on up here. Um, and so I hope that not only my podcast, but this movie, this short film can help somebody in a similar situation.
It's about mental health. It is very important that we talk about it.
Mhm.
First of all, because not many people are talking about mental health, and I myself is a mental health advocate, and I'm not ashamed to talk about my mental health. I suffer depression, and so,
Yeah.
and I totally understand your story. I lost my dad when I was 3 years old, and so,
Sorry to hear that.
in losing. I'm not ashamed of opening up about this, losing friends to suicide. But
Mhm.
it's very important to talk about mental health because we are impacting other people's lives, and having conversation like we are having and having our podcast is going to help people who are going to watch your podcast, watch my show, and anybody who is out there who are struggling in the entertainment industry or not, they know that they're not alone and their story is being heard somehow. All right, and
Mhm.
that's the beginning of their journey to let them know that we're here and we're trying to tell their stories. We're hearing, and we are. That's what our voice is for. That's how I see it. We are. Right, you know, as yourself an actress, as myself as a talk show host, but we're talking about stories of our own personal life, but also we're hoping that when we tell our personal stories, that we are hoping that someone out there who's watching, they could be realizing, wow, this film that Taylor is making is about me similar. It's my story
Mhm.
similar. And it moves them, right? And that's the impact of the film industry and I believe your story and your film is going to impact people.
I hope so. I got to work with one of the best film directors I've ever met. His name's Josemar Vasquez. You know him.
Yes.
I actually I met him through you um, years and years ago in 2021. But Josemar Vasquez of Vasquez Pictures, when he first came to me with the idea with the Taylor, obviously it really hit home for me. And so I was trying to, I mean, she loses her dad loving him. I lost my dad having a really complicated relationship. So I felt, how do I want to play this?
Hmm.
I mean, there's just so many different ways you can do it. And so finally it came time to shoot. We shot in January. Um, and I mean, there were so many scenes. Yeah, okay, you have to cry in this scene, and it came so effortlessly because of the writing. The writing was top notch. Josemar's a genius. Everyone he works with is a genius, and I felt so. I felt like I was in such good hands. I felt the story was in such good hands because it was from his mind and his whimsical world. And so I love that I also work with a production company that is all about representation. That is literally the heart of what Vasquez Pictures is. That's the heart of my brand. I've always wanted, especially as a young girl, I wanted to see people. I don't want to ever see someone go through what I went through, but it's you feel less alone when someone talks about it. Like maybe you have a really crazy pimple on your face and everyone else around you is like really clear skin and you're like, well, I just want someone to talk about their really embarrassing pimple story. You know what I mean? I want someone to talk about not having a dad in their life. I want to talk about loss. I want to talk about grief. I want to talk about life after grief. And so, kind of piggybacking off of an earlier convo, just life after grief is it's hard, it's challenging, but when you have that representation, um, you feel less alone. And so I'm really really excited for it to come out. We just shot the other day some finishing touches and some voiceovers to go along with it. An incredible cast, such talent. It was so amazing to film that with all of them. And I'm hoping that it can touch people
Hmm.
for good.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, how we can handle grief and, all the stuff that you said, hopefully it brings healing to people. And that's,
Yes, and closure.
and closer,
Yeah,
and that's number one. And yeah, Joe Shamir is great, great person. Um,
he's so sweet. Yes,
yes,
such a talent.
yeah, he has so much ideas and talents and all this brainstorming he does for filming. It's amazing.
Mhm.
So, yes, so it was thanks to me. So, um, my follow-up
Thank you.
question.
Thank you.
I say, see, I just say it to me, but I had to say that because you already mentioned that. But,
Yes.
um, why do you love acting?
Oh gosh. I definitely. So I grew up in New York. I'm
Hmm.
originally from LA, but I grew up in New York, and I remember some of the earliest memories I have are going to Broadway and seeing Wicked at the Gershwin Theater and going to see Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and um but especially Wicked really really wanted to make me act. Just seeing kind of that climactic, defying gravity moment. I was like, I want to do that the rest of my life. Maybe not be painted green, but I want to do what she's doing. And so I was always very theatrical. I loved it, but there really was never, it has to feel right. And so when we moved back here, when I was 9, theater and small things. But my love just kept growing for it. I started loving theater And then when I moved back to LA, I fell in love with kind of that Hollywood acting and movies and shows. And I grew up love watching Turner Classic Movies, and just old Hollywood and glitz and glamour. And I loved the power that they had to
Hmm.
convey a message that was either, funny and, I'll just watch this and not care, or a powerful movie that made you feel upset or made you feel happy or made you feel inspired in some way. I loved that they were able to connect in a way that was just besides words. Because sometimes words don't convey how you want to feel. Maybe you want to sing it. Maybe you want to dance it. Maybe you want to, show it on your face, these emotions. And I loved that you could do that. Um, and so the rest is history. And here I am.
Wow. Follow-up question is, since you brought up
Yes.
theater, which one do you like the most, theater or on-screen acting?
Whew, that's a tough one because my first love ever was theater. No, my first love ever was Zac Efron, um, but no, I think honestly on stage or on screen rather than on stage, because theater sometimes can be a lot. Tech week and there's just a lot riding on it. Um, but I think I've grown to love theater a lot more and appreciate a lot more now that I'm on a comedy troupe. Because I look at improv and live shows almost as a production. Um, so I think I love them and hate them equally. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
there's pros and cons to both, but I it's acting. You know what I mean? Maybe on screen a little more, but it's acting. It's a passion. It's just it's a different venue.
Right. And so if you say love and hate,
Yes.
what do you mean by that? Because I know a lot of people must be wondering, what is she talking about?
I think for there's so many emotions with, when you're doing something on screen, you're like, how is this gonna, there's so much fear of like, is someone gonna like this? Is it gonna
Hmm.
get picked up? Is someone gonna resonate with this? Is someone gonna think I'm horrible? You know what I mean? And so I think hatred, maybe, strong word, but I think there's that acting is very unknown. It is one of the most unknown careers you could possibly choose. As I said earlier, before we went on, you have to be absolutely mad to be an actor because you face so much rejection. You have to be your own director, your own lighting and camera crew, your own wardrobe, your own makeup, your everything. Because after COVID, it was self tapes galore, right? And it was filming your own projects, and so you have to wear many hats. And if you are not absolutely committed to the bit, it's not, you can only go past a certain level,
Hmm.
and really knock that wall down. You know what I mean? And so I think I was behind that wall for a long time because you have to constantly be diligent in this. So I think there's that love hatred there. But love overshadows it because it's always something that I've been so passionate about, so strong. I mean, when you're 3 years old, you should be eating lipstick, right? You should be eating lip gloss. You're not watching theater and thinking
Movie
I
and
want to do
TV
that,
show.
right? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And I mean, yes, I was a kid, but I think I was born kind of alternative and different, and I love what I do. Sometimes it's stressful, but the love outshines
Hmm.
all of the stress.
The one thing about theater, back to that real quick, is that when you're on stage, when you make a mistake, you have to continue. And but you're on screen, you make a mistake, excuse me, the director or the producer says cut, and then you redo it again. So, do you miss being on stage and like, oh, you said the wrong line, but everybody else is like going along with it, and then you forget you made a mistake, or like you said, you like on screen, it's like that scare fear tactic. So,
There is.
what's what is your opinion? I know a lot of actors who've done stage. They say
Hmm.
they like, there's some that have told me they like stage more, and there's some that they like on screen more, but there's some they say they like both.
Yeah.
So, on your view, what's your take?
I like both, you know, obviously, like I said, for different reasons, there's pros and cons to both. But for me, in my opinion, I feel there's no mistake that you can possibly make in acting as long as it goes with a character. So one of my acting coaches, I barely known my line, right? I barely knew my lines. It was a scene from 500 Days of Summer, and I mean, it's probably like 3 or 4 pages worth. And I just looked at them that morning. And I'm going through them, and I'm looking at, look at my phone. And he's like, "You don't, you know the script already." I was like, "What?" It's like, it was like, was gonna be like a Houdini act, like, and so I just put down my phone and I'm just talking and ad libbing, and I will owe that to improv training. That is a must for any actor. Please get improv training. Um, but I think that kind of teaches you that in theater there's no mistake really. As long as it makes sense to the character, you can flub up any line, and as long as it makes sense, no one's gonna notice. You know what I mean? It's not like there's someone in the audience who's, looking at a script and being like, she messed up. If there is, that is some dedication. But I can assure you, no one cares if you mess up a line. But no, I mean, that's the beauty of live, you know. And I that's why it's such a complicated relationship that I have with it. It's like, um, but and yeah, screen acting. If you mess up, you're like, oh, retake it. But I think there's some challenge, and it challenges you as an actor to be
Mhm,
in a
mhm.
production, to do a play. It
Right.
really does challenge you. So I started out doing plays. I didn't even start out doing commercials or on screen. I started out doing theater in the East Coast. So I think that really helped me in my career right now, because it teaches you confidence. It
Mhm.
teaches you to not sweat under pressure. So I'll have to long-winded answer to your question. But I'd say both. Both
Well,
for different reasons.
uh,
Mhm.
you know, i- my opinion, and you can correct me, do you see theater acting more for beginners to get them ready for on-screen acting?
Absolutely. It's kind of like throwing someone in the water and just letting them swim.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? In a way, it's really throwing yourself. Obviously, you don't do anything before you're ready. I mean, if you really you feel like, oh, maybe I should just kind of start out small, do it makes you feel comfortable. But I think
Mhm.
improv training and theatrical training, absolutely, absolutely, it'll so help you with confidence. I was a very, very shy girl, which, thinking about that now, is insane. But I was super quiet and super shy when I was little, and um, theater saved my life in so many ways. Acting saved my life in so many ways. So I think if you're going to be starting out, uh, be in a play, go to
Wow.
regional, or do
Mhm.
community theater, and be ensemble, or do a small part, or go for the big part.
Mhm.
And it'll teach you so much, so many things, so many things.
Now, my next follow-up, the same subject, but in Los Angeles and New York, there's a big difference. And I've
Huge.
heard, huge. That's what I'm saying, huge. I'm an LA guy, but I've heard that in Los Angeles, there's not much theater compared to
Mhm.
New York. So a lot of beginners, like this is the follow-up question we were talking about, is you said theaters for, should be for beginners. So in your opinion, for actors and actresses in Los Angeles, where
Mhm.
should they go if they can't find um any, my brain went phrase, theater acting? Where should
Yes.
they start? Where should they start? Should and I know it'd be kind of crazy to say, oh, fly to New York, right? They're gonna say, well, where's the money gonna come from, right? So in your opinion, where should they start from?
It's a good question. So, um, if you're in school, definitely school plays, I think, is the best place that you can start. If you're involved in a church or a church community, I mean, there's plays everywhere, right? You don't just have to look at the Pantages and go, oh, well, that's the only option.
Hmm,
There's
hmm.
tons of regional theater and community theater, actually, and I think a lot of people have that misconception that there's only theater in New York, or there's only fashion in New York, or there's only,
Hmm.
I mean, we hype up New York so much, and yes, it is one of the best cities in America, one of the best cities maybe in the world, dare I say. But LA has a lot of amazing options. I mean, there's a Pasadena Playhouse. There's a ton of amazing places that you can audition for. Um, so you don't just have to fly out to New York and try to make it there. There's a ton of options out here as well.
And in LA, what do you notice the big difference compared to New
Mhm.
York and LA acting in the industry?
Ooh, um, I've seen New York be a little more specialized, and they're very trained. There's a ton of acting schools out there. I mean, there's a ton of acting schools in LA, but they're very theatrically trained, they're very on it, and they're very specialized. I think in LA, and I've talked to agents about this, I've talked to casting directors, coaches, you name it, I've talked to them about this. In recent years, especially after COVID, there has been very big competition, huge. People from all over the world, you know, um, everybody and their mother is going up for the role that you are, and so I think here, while New York, yes, you have to be specialized, I think in LA you have to be um even more exotic, because I was recently just auditioning for different things, and I'm like, oh, and I was like looking at my special skills. I'm like, improv, okay, like I can do that, and da 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 da, and da da da. And I was pretty much nicely told I'm a dime a dozen,
Hmm, hmm.
right? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, your whole world shatters before your eyes. And you're like, but I thought I was the exotic one doing improv. Everyone and their mother's doing improv. Everyone and their mother can speak Spanish. Everyone there and they're, you want to do things that really make you stand out. And so I'm taking up ASL. Um, I'm trying to learn a bunch of new skills. And so, if you can cook, get great at it. If you can paint, get great at it. If you can speak a language, learn another one. Or if a different language than English, learn another one. It's really, I think that's the biggest difference that I've seen. Because the market in New York is a lot smaller and a little more specific, and LA is just kind of this, it's a huge world. There is a place for everyone, in my opinion. I think there's a place for every person here who's trying to make it. Um, but it's just a matter of when and where. And so
True.
make today your when.
Hmm.
Make today your
100%.
when.
Yeah, you never know. Um,
Learn Cantonese.
right.
I mean, do it. Be special. I genuinely be special, not just like be yourself. All that mumbo jumbo, I don't really believe in that. I mean, who is yourself if you don't know yourself?
Right.
Truly, do I love doing this? Don't just like
Mhm.
take up horseback riding. You're like, I'm going to be an equestrian. And it's like, but do you like horses? You know what I mean? So really, if you love horses and you want to learn, and you could probably book a really cool commercial or really cool job because you know how to horseback ride, do it.
Mhm.
But genuinely love it. Don't just, do it to do it.
Right. 100%. And one of my last questions for you, but I have so many more, but what is your hope for an
Mhm.
actress, woman actress, for women empowerment in the industry? And if you mind answering this question, because a lot of women actors and actresses and young ones, they dream is to be an actress in the industry, which they should go for it. But also,
Mhm.
do you feel like that there's not many women, female directors and producers? And if so, what do you believe that your message to everyone who's watching this to say, women can do almost the same thing as,
Mhm.
I hate to say it, men like myself, to be in film director and producer. What is your message for women empowerment who are trying to understand what they can do, or all the women can come together and hopefully change
Yeah.
the industry?
Ooh, that's I've been very fortunate to never face a situation where I felt that, I was blocked because I was a woman, or I was, kind of barred out because I was a woman. But I, definitely, since Barbie, such a good movie.
Yes,
But ever
I've
since Barbie,
I saw, even though I should be I am kind of ashamed, sorry, but I did see
no, it's amazing.
it's more for, I hate to say it, a woman movie, but
Yes. But
I say there's like, yes,
yeah, but
or
no,
a dating, it's more a dating movie. I'm sorry, woman and dating movie.
yeah, I will agree there. But the director of Barbie happens to be a woman, right? And there's a lot more female directors, female producers. I even think Emily in Paris, which I'm absolutely obsessed with, but Lily Collins is a producer, I believe, I want to say. So I've been seeing a lot more, recently within the last maybe decade, half decade, a lot more females in higher positions. And I love that. Um, but I don't want it to just stop there. I think that representation matters. I think, the story that I was fortunate enough to be given to share, but I think it's even past the point of just showing and showcasing women in higher positions. I think it's, opening up the conversations to talk about taboo messages and to have people of all different walks of life, all different looks, all different backgrounds. And so I think that the first step, was getting kind of more leading roles and leading positions. And I think that everything else just kind of falls into place.
Mhm.
So I love the what I'm seeing from the industry, and I know that it's quite rare in my experience. I've never felt obsolete. I've never felt like I was in a position where because I was a woman, I wasn't given fair
Mhm.
treatment. If anything, I've always felt I've been so blessed in my walk in my career, which I know is not always the case. Um, but I think position yourself right and be around people who love and support you, and yeah, produce that stuff,
Amazing.
produce it, direct it. You will.
That's true. Well, that's the reason I asked, because it's changed, but a lot of people are wondering what they can do or hope they can
Mhm.
do to change the film industry, and so that's a
Yeah.
good.
Place yourself in leadership roles too.
Hmm.
I mean, in a study group. I think definitely if you want to be a director, if you want to be a producer, if you want to be a writer, and you happen to be a woman, I think just, and I say this for men too, put yourself in leadership roles. Lead a study group,
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
lead a kids group, lead something. Be good with numbers if you want to be a producer. Be good managing people.
Right.
I'm an associate producer when I'm not working, and one of the I think I just turned 21 and I barely knew what I was doing, but as they say, fake it till you make it. Just don't tell anyone on set that I didn't. Um, but I'm like, yes, I know, and I'm definitely qualified. Um, but no, I mean, that was crazy to me because also our producer was a woman, I'm a woman, and so it was, it was crazy to be in kind of that position because at 21, barely 21, I was given a position of power. I was
Hmm.
handling money, I was handling props, I was managing people, people way older than me
Hmm. Hmm.
and men who didn't want to be managed. And
Right,
so
right.
certainly not by a 21-year-old, with a squeaky voice, like hello, 5'1". Um, but I did it. I think that if I can be in that kind of role, then you can too.
Right.
So I
Anybody can
hope
do
that
it.
inspires somebody.
Hmm. And that's a powerful message. Anybody can do it.
If
100%.
I can do it, you can do it.
Yes,
For your
100%.
money back guaranteed.
Anybody.
Yes.
Well, Taylor, it's been an honor. You know,
Okay, it's been an honor for me to be back here after so long.
well, you're always welcome back on my show. And then, when I have you back, I will have my co-host on as well. And we would love to have you back on and ask you many, many more tough questions. And I just want to come back because your film, Taylor, it's going to be amazing. I saw the trailer and it's absolutely
Mhm.
amazing. I'm so happy for you. And I can't wait to see it.
Thank you so much. I can't wait for it to be out. I can't wait to see it. I've only seen kind of the rough draft. So the audio still needs to work, the lighting, all
Mhm.
that. But and then we just were adding some scenes in, and I just retook some or added some voiceover work. Huge, a lot of stuff has been added. So I'm excited to see it. It's being sent this week to be fully edited, and then plan is to film festivals and hopefully travel all around the world and share this very powerful, dare I say very powerful
Mhm.
message to a lot of people across the world that I hope it resonates with.
Mhm. Well, your film's going to change people. I hope it. I know it will. I shouldn't say I hope. I know it will.
Joe Samar really does make powerful stories, and I sound like a broken record, but to have been a part of that was, I'm beyond
Mhm.
grateful. And if he's watching this, which I hope he is, but he rocks. He really, really does. And
Yes, he is.
um, you know, he very, very honored to have been given this.
Yeah.
And what can I say? I'm very excited.
Mm-hmm. It's been an honor. And I love Joe Shamir. He's a great person.
He
So
is.
thank you, Miss Taylor, for coming on. And I look forward to having you back on my show. Let's definitely stay in touch.
Yes. Thank you so much for having
All right.
me.
I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.